This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 369. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Memmert.
This should be an interesting show, considering that there's been lots going on in free agency and press conferences and all that good stuff. And everybody in this fan base, all the 12s, they all feel like we're all over the map on how we're feeling about things and excitement or non-excitement or things like that. I'm going to be interested to hear your take on some of those things. And it's going to be an interesting episode, even though, it feels a little like Dark Days.
It does, but this is interesting. I mean, we have never gone through anything quite this interesting, and it really does show just in the fact of all the comments that we see out on Twitter, on the YouTube videos. It's all over the map. And I don't know exactly why that is, other than that I think sometimes our feelings, whether it's optimism toward what we're hearing from the coaches and players, just kind of how we're feeling in general about Pete Carroll and John Schneider coming into this offseason. And, we said weeks ago when this trade first went down that everybody is going to be dealing with this differently. And so as long as I keep that in mind, I don't have any hard feelings toward anybody feeling one way or another.
No, not really. It was interesting. This last mill trip took me down through Denver.
Yeah.
In case anybody was wondering, yes, I flipped off their stupid catfish stadium, and I don't even know what it's called now. And told Russ that he can kick rocks there in that stadium and hope he enjoys, quote unquote, his time there. Yeah, I definitely was in bitter X stage, driving through. Just kind of like, well, all right, go screw yourself then. Enjoy your new teammates over here. And then talking to all the Denver fans, of course, they're all fired up. And that was tough to deal with at times. But also bumping into a ton of Seattle fans along the way. And once again, all over the map. But I think we could all agree that we're all still bumming a little bit after Russ leaves town. But there's quite a few of us that I ran into that we're moving on. Like, all right, who do you like the quarterbacks coming out of this draft? Would you rather wait till next year? How about any of these free agents? How about any of these guys that are available for trade? Do we just roll with Drew Lock? Are you excited about Drew Lock? How do you feel about that? Those were the types of conversations I had a lot of on that trip.
It does feel easier to move on, especially when I see comments from Bob Condota out on Twitter saying that, he was quoting the Peter King article that came out, the Football Morning in America column, where, he's talking about all the different moves that we've seen here recently. And one of the nuggets within that column was that Russell Wilson's camp. I hate saying that, but
that's fine. We got rid of them people in the divorce too.
I know.
So we're good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and the tweet and Bob quotes it directly saying King says Russell Wilson's camp considered 14 different teams and placed scores on each for a variety of factors and had Denver at or near the top in that contest. So yes, it indeed appears Wilson was considering options in the offseason, as one report in January suggested. 14 teams.
14 teams.
He didn't want out, though. He really hoped that he would be back in Seattle.
I pray that I will. I really pray that I do.
Do you think he was praying that Pete Carroll and John Schneider would be fired? Because really, that's the only thing that I could see that was, when he talked about hoping and praying to be back in Seattle, that was the only option, was that ownership would choose him over the other guys.
That would be the only prayer that wouldn't make him a liar.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of want to believe that Russ isn't a liar, but I'm kind of okay with believing he's a liar at this point.
I'm pretty sure Russ has no problem not saying anything and really just kind of letting everybody fill in the blanks around it and not clearing anything up. I think he enjoys the drama around him. I think he enjoys the attention.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's what last offseason was all about.
What it's all about. And honestly, the further and further away I get from this divorce, like, the better and better I feel about it. I'm starting to get excited. Even if there's people out there, like, I was watching a YouTube video from Strong Opinion Sports, Zach, and the title of the episode was two hopeless teams in the NFL. And he goes through a bunch of different teams like, well, the Jets, they got Zach Wilson and a new coach, and they're like doing this, so there's hope there. And the Jags just spent a bunch of money, and they got Trevor Lawrence and a new coach and all that. And then guess what? One of the two most hopeless teams in the NFL was Seattle. And I heard him say that and really talk about it, and it didn't make sense to me because, I mean, sure, do I think that this is going to be a banger year and we're rattling off 13 wins this year? I doubt it. But to go into the season feeling absolutely hopeless, I certainly don't. I don't think this roster is nearly as bad as the pundits say. I don't think that the overall quarterback play needs to be Russell Wilson level to win a bunch of games. In fact, I think in some ways it's going to be a lot better for the way that this team is going to play football. And I like old school football. I do. Sue me. Run the catfish the ball, play awesome defense, thump people, and just take their lunch. I love that. And so I'm kind of, the more I look at it, the more I'm kind of fired up thinking about these draft picks that we've got coming up and all of that. And they're certainly not done at the quarterback spot, but I'm also not one of those people that are like, oh, Drew Lock put him in the dumpster.
No?
I mean, no, he's got some limitations, but he also was trying to overcome Pat Shurmur's craptastic offense on the daily. And I don't know who could really do it. That really was trash football. I'm really curious to see what it looks like through training camp and stuff for him. If the change of scenery and the change of offense really does do what I think Pete and John think it's going to do for Drew Lock, he could be interesting. Compare him to any one of the potential draft picks in this class. Do you want that potential draft pick or Drew Lock?
Yeah, based on what we've seen. Now, we got to see some pro day highlights from some of the guys like Matt Corral, and
pro days don't matter.
Oh, I know. I do want to make that point clear. Like, they make for really exciting and fun YouTube clips that get fans hyped up, but don't buy into the hype because those dudes are just running around like in flip-flops and throwing the football around to routes they've practiced and practiced and practiced. They're not even in football pads when they're doing these pro days.
Oh, unless you're Johnny Manziel and you went out there in a helmet and full pads on your pro day. How serious he takes football. Look at this. Johnny Manziel, what an amazing pro day. He's going to be awesome. Draft him in the first round.
Totally worked out, too.
That's why pro days are ridiculous. They are ridiculous.
But like I said, they make for some fun highlights. That the one that was going around from Malik Willis, very fun. Big throw. And yeah, it was it made for some fun things to talk about on Twitter. But it doesn't make me super excited with the idea of, okay, well, if he's there at 9 and the Seahawks take him, it's not that's going to get me excited about him.
I don't know that any of these quarterbacks are a first round quarterback.
We'll see how it plays out. But the more I get through, and we're going to hear from Pete Carroll and John Schneider as we play some of the clips from their press conference about the excitement, maybe. I don't know if excitement's the word. They seem excited about Drew Lock, so I'll put it that way. Now, you're way more optimistic about this than I am. Like, if I'm thinking in terms of my hope for this upcoming season, my hope is beyond 2022. I know I'm hearing Pete Carroll talk about how, he's got plans to win. I can't get there quite yet. And yes, I like old school football too. I don't know how excited I can be about bringing back Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. And if you have these two guys that we've never seen healthy on the field at the same time for more than a game, I have a hard time getting excited about that. We lose Carlos Dunlap. He gets cut. Bobby Wagner's gone. Yeah, they're bringing in some pieces. We saw some free agent signings. Justin Coleman coming back to the Seahawks to play corner. That's kind of cool. Quentin Jefferson coming back. These are guys that left, though, and are coming back. And, maybe altogether it works to where they start building something special. But I don't see enough pieces to where I see the kind of defense that would lead me toward thinking that they can somehow recreate that level of physicality and toughness that they had back in the Super Bowl era.
It is interesting to look at the moves and trying to piece together what you think the goal of this team is for 2022. And honestly, it's got to be tanking, right?
I know they're not saying that it's tanking, but based on the moves, it feels tank-ish.
And then you hear Quandre say something in his press conference like, I know what I've been told, and I believe in what I've been told about what is going to happen going forward. So that wasn't oh no, we're definitely all in this year. We're going for it. That was, they probably told me we're going to suck this year. That's fine. We're going to give you a long-term deal, but we think we can be in a much more competitive spot in 2 years. That's the way that I read that. I don't know.
Well, and I'll play a clip coming up that has me leaning that way based on something John Schneider said too. So I think there are some clues there that maybe this isn't the year. Then if that's the case, I'm more okay with Drew Lock being the quarterback, because with the things that we've seen over the last few weeks, Baker Mayfield's still an option out there. I know some people were kind of hoping for Matt Ryan to Seattle. He ends up going to the Colts. I know. I said that just so I could see that face and that the gagging.
Just a sec, why? Yeah, I gotta swallow the throw up in my mouth.
I know. Yeah, you wouldn't have enjoyed that very much. So no. Baker Mayfield is still the guy out there. I mentioned it to Clinton the last time we chatted. And a big part of this is based on my reaction to everything that I've been seeing. Everybody's got their idea of where the Seahawks should go next at quarterback. And everything that I read that is not of my opinion sounds like a really bad option to me.
So your opinion being?
Well, my opinion being that Baker Mayfield is the option that I would prefer. But then it just makes me recognize, based on the responses that I hear from people that think that my option is bad, it just makes me think that all of these options are terrible. And I just have to recognize that, yes, the option that I've picked as the way forward that I think would be best, yeah, it's not that great. But you know what? Yours isn't great either, whoever's talking to me. So, you know what? Just go ahead and we'll all hang on to what we think is our best option, and we'll see what ultimately happens going forward.
Okay. Let's do the Baker discussion a little bit, because that's been big in the news and all of that. And I understand why you would be looking at Baker,
Boomer!
Former Sooner. Yeah, I get it. Look,
he's a fun guy. He's a fun guy, just like people out there who are the Washington State fans who like Gardner Minshew. It's a fun guy that I could see myself rooting for.
So let me ask you this to start with. Would you rather try to win games this year or try to get a good draft pick?
I would prefer to win games.
Okay. So now I understand why you're on the Baker mindset.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you get to the idea that Baker would be a good option, because he's the last best of these guys. Now, what would be the appropriate trade value in your mind for Baker?
Based on the way things are going right now, initially I would have said one of our seconds or thirds. Now
Jesus.
I know. And that's just where I'm at, because I want to win. But now, and see your reaction, it would have been different a couple weeks ago, maybe not.
No. I've been thinking from the second it looked like Baker was going to get traded, I was like, I'd go up to a low third for Baker. That'd be the highest I would possibly go. But even then, that's a massive overpay because of the biggest thing hanging over a Baker trade. But go ahead.
Well, he still has 1 year left on his deal. You don't have to decide to give him a deal right up front. And yeah, but then the Deshaun Watson trade happened. And then it's like, okay, well, now they have to get rid of him. Unless you're waiting around to see if Watson is going to get suspended and you think that maybe you can make it work with Baker for half a year and then Watson for the other half. But I don't think Baker's into coming back to the team after everything that happened. So initially I was thinking, okay, now they have to trade him. Now I'm thinking a third. But then also at the same time, it was Indianapolis was kind of in the mix, maybe Carolina. And now that it seems like neither of those teams are interested, I'm kind of thinking more in the fourth area. And I'm even hearing some people talking as if they might have to Osweiler Baker, because the situation that they're in, if there's no other takers, his options are going to be relatively limited at this point. And hey, if we get Baker and a draft pick, sign me up.
Sure. And that is the interesting part of all this, is that you start seeing the stories from, Browns land right out of the gate, like, oh, they're going to want a first and maybe a player for Baker. Shut the catfish up.
Well, that's like the Niners saying, oh, well, we have somebody on board that wants to give us 2 seconds for Jimmy G. Really? Because if you did, why haven't you made that trade?
Because you don't believe in Trey Lance, and so they're still holding on to Jimmy G. So looking at the Baker thing, it went like this for me. Look, okay, fine. You trade for Baker, somebody who's got a little hoopla with him, somebody who was complaining openly to management that he wanted a new contract. And at the end of the day, you think that's going to be any different when it comes to Seattle and you're giving up a draft pick? Like, you have to pay him. He's not going to play this year for his rookie deal. He's not going to do it. So you have to pay him. Why trade?
Well,
and
then wait till he gets cut and then see what he would make out on the open market.
Okay, fine, I guess. But I just don't understand paying Baker Mayfield, who we've seen what he is. And it's, one of the bottom 5 to 8 quarterbacks in the league. He's a high quality backup or a low level starter. That's just who he is. And it's been who he is since he's come into the league. And I don't see the point of going with Baker and actually having hope. Drew Lock actually has some upside, right? Now, do I think he can get there? I don't know.
Which one do you think's the better quarterback right now?
It's close.
Really?
Yeah, it's close.
Nah, I see. I see that there's a significant gap there, but
there's not a significant gap there. What is it that Baker does well? Give me one thing that Baker Mayfield does well, other than being tough, because I won't take his toughness from him. He played through a difficult injury last year, and I'll give him a lot of credit for that. He's tough as nails. I will say that. Other than being a great actor in a commercial, what is one thing that Baker does well?
I think he does some of the off-schedule stuff well. I think that I think he has the ability to operate an offense better than I've seen from Locke at all.
What evidence? His touchdown to interception ratio isn't any better than Drew. His completion percentage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah. Baker, he takes care of the football relatively well. He had fewer fumbles than Russ did over their past 3-4 years, I think, when we looked it up. Over the past 3-4 years, he had fewer fumbles than Russ.
Okay, fine. On fumbles, I hadn't looked into that.
And interceptions was, I mean, it's not terrible. Russ was so good at taking care of the football. Anybody you get is going to be worse.
Yeah. So really, when it comes down to Baker, does he have plus mobility? No.
That's fine.
Does he have plus arm strength? No.
It's fine.
Does he have plus accuracy? No. Does he have plus decision making? No. Does he have plus leadership ability? Some might argue, yeah. Front office of the Browns couldn't wait to be rid of him. I'm going to go with no. What does Baker do that's plus? Nothing. Like, I don't see anything in Baker's game that's better than, okay, he can go out there and be a guy, and then you got to pay close to, 25-30 million a year for him when it's all said and done.
Yeah, if that's the amount, I think that to me, he is, I don't know, healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, slightly less handsome, significantly less handsome.
And he can't work the middle of the field. Like, I'm way out on Baker. I don't think that's a good move at all. I thought about it and was kind of tempted for a second, but at the end of the day, I'd rather draft one of these rookie kids in the, mid rounds or something like that with that 3rd or 4th, 5th round pick that you'd give up for Baker and let him compete with Drew Lock and see what happens. We know what Baker is. He's a super low ceiling quarterback.
I feel like I know what Drew Lock is, and I'm not excited.
Oh, I think it's much more likely that we trot Drew Lock out there for 6 games and he looks like the Drew Lock that we saw this last season than when he won 4 games in his rookie year and was breaking, John Elway's record for the most. Yeah. I think it's far more likely that he's not going to work out than work out. But again, we're tanking this year, so who gives a crap? Let's see if we stumbled into something. What if Pete and John did find a distressed asset here? Like, okay, cool. He's more talented than Baker by a lot.
I think that what we'll end up with going into the season, it sounds to me like Geno Smith is coming back, just based on what we hear from Pete and John. It sounds like he's not signed back on the team officially, but he's going to be back just based on everything that we're hearing.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a competition with him and Locke, and maybe a quarterback falls to them that they feel can compete, and then they have a three-way battle going into the season. But if I had to put money on it right now as to who is going to start more football games, it would be a guy who's not even on the team right now, and that's Geno Smith.
Yeah, but he's on the team.
Right.
The way that they've been talking. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to me about Geno or Drew Lock. Like, who's better? I don't know. I mean,
from a leadership standpoint, I think Geno's better.
It's possible. Yeah. I don't think Drew Lock's a bad guy. I've been listening to his press conferences and all that.
Yeah. And I think the Drew Lock press conference, it has a lot of people on board because everybody's like, oh, well, this guy seems cool. Like, he seems like a nice guy. And I agree with you. He seems like a nice guy. I can root for him.
Yeah. I can get behind him getting a chance. I'm good with it. Now, I think
press conferences are like pro days.
Of course. I mean, of course. It's just more, there's a aspect of your fandom that you need to be able to be behind your quarterback and enjoy them to a large degree, right? Otherwise, I mean, that was, again, why I was so against the Watson ideas. Like, I just wasn't going to be able to get on board. So, yeah, I looked at Drew's pressers and he's saying all the right things and all that stuff, and that's cool and all. So, to me, I think it's going to be Geno, Drew, and one of the rookies, hopefully stink for the year, and then be in the running for apparently some of these kids that are coming out the next year. I haven't looked at them yet. I know there's like Bloomy in the Ring of Honor. He's real excited about a couple of the kids from next year's draft class at QB. I don't know. I haven't looked at him, but haven't gone through the rookies and gone through them again and then kind of one more time. Have you looked at him much? And is there any one of them that you've looked at and been like, hey, if they got him somewhere in here, that'd be cool. Like, I think I see potential. Is there any of those guys for you?
The one guy that I keep going back to is Ritter, the Cincinnati quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the second, I think I'd be fine with him.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, if you want other Paxton Lynch, that's cool.
Look, we can talk more. We covered quarterbacks in the last show. I'm sure we're going to be covering quarterbacks some more. I want to get to the press conference that we heard from Pete Carroll, John Schneider, because at the start of the league new year, we got to.
There you go.
Did I say that right?
Nailed it.
We got to hear from Pete and John just how this Russell Wilson trade went down, some of the thinking behind it. We got to hear a lot about Pete Carroll's philosophy. We got to hear some of the excitement around Drew Lock. So I thought it'd be good because we went live with Clinton right after, and we talked about some of our reaction immediately afterward. But I think it'd be good to go back and just to document some of the stuff that they said and kind of get some of the reaction now that we've had a little bit more time to process it.
All right.
So let's start things off with Pete Carroll. He opened up the press conference talking about his philosophy. He talked about second chances, but he started it off with some commentary that he had with basketball head coach John Wooden, and him reminiscing about this moment where he asked Coach Wooden about how often he changed his coaching philosophy.
How much you change your philosophy from year to year? And he looked at me, and as he looked at me, I went, oh, no, what was I thinking? Why did I ask that? No, I felt like a little kid. And he said, Coach, you don't change your philosophy. Your philosophy is what it is. You either believe in it or you don't. What happens is every year the players change. And as you apply your philosophy for the players, it takes on the shape of the individuals that you're dealing with. But you don't change your philosophy.
Which tells us that this decision to move on from Russ had a lot to do with Pete not wanting, and we've always had that discussion of Pete being able to make adjustments because he did change some things based on some of that let Russ cook talk. We saw the offense change for about a half of the season, but then we saw defenses make an adjustment, and he wanted to go back to really what was more of his core philosophy. So did that kind of hit you the same way, hearing him talk about that?
Yeah, kind of the other thing that stood out to me from those comments, because he talked about his philosophy for a good long time there, is that I think both Russ and Pete are correct. This offense was never going to be as productive as it could be unless you went full on Russ centric, what like Russ wants, for it to revolve around him completely, right? You need to either do that or you need to go full on Pete ball and go that direction. It's one or the other. I think this bastardization and compromise of the two of them just was disjointed for year after year. And you hear Pete talk so much in his interviews and this presser and all that about the point guard thing and taking care of the ball and all that. And Russ was tired of that crap. He didn't want, he was over it.
It does. It takes me back to another clip that I wanted to play for you, because Greg Olson was talking with Colin Cowherd about the offensive style of Pete Carroll and how things worked when he had his 1 year in Seattle. I don't know how much to put stock into it, but if this is really how Russ felt, then it really led toward the trade.
You were in that locker room. Is it fair to say Seattle offensively was a little behind the times?
I never thought they had a personnel issue. The conversations that I would have with the coaches and the amount of pushback and the amount of questions that I would get in return saying, we're not sure if we can do this. I'm not sure if we can protect this. And I'd sit there scratching my head. It was like we were playing with a JV roster. It was like we were playing with a rookie undrafted quarterback. Like, it was very interesting to me. I just think the ideology there was always defense first, kicking game, punt the ball, field position, force turnovers, defensive led, and then they'd hand the ball to Russ at the end of the game and say, go be Magic. I just think it was part of Russell's frustration. I think it's why Russ said, I want to go somewhere where this is going to be an offensive, quarterback-driven team every Sunday with the ball in my hand like Aaron Rodgers.
And I could see to the extent of it being an offensive first team. I don't, and really when I think about Pete's philosophy, it never was going to be an offensive first team. But I think that, and I don't know about the JV stuff that he's saying either. I mean,
yeah, those were some veiled shots that I'm like, all right, dude, you were here for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, one year. Okay. And I think the coaching staff probably had a better idea of Russell's capabilities than maybe even Russell had of his own capabilities. Yeah. Because I still wish that it would have been able to work just around the idea of, because man, Russ is so good at certain things. And if they could have just found that medium point to where he gets to do his stuff offensively that he's really, really good at. They get a running game that really, we've never had the kind of running game until what we saw at the very end of last season. That, something that they haven't had since Marshawn was here. And yeah, they've never been able to recreate that same type of offensive system that they had in 2012, 2013 when Marshawn was here.
No, they really haven't. And it's the turnover part of it that really gets at Pete's core. He doesn't want the ball in the air that much. I mean, he's of that old school mindset of, three things can happen on a pass play and two of them are bad. And look, when Russ was coming up in a third round pick and just fighting for a spot in the league and all that, taking care of the ball and making dynamic plays here and there, that was enough. But then Russ became, a little more Russell. Yeah, like it just, I don't know. It was that celebrity quarterback thing and wanting it all to be on him. And maybe that's what a great athlete always needs and always wants to do, is to keep pushing and going forward. Let's say I'm necessarily mad at it, but it came a point to where he outgrew Pete, and Pete can't handle the extra that comes with a celebrity quarterback who wants the ball in the air all the time. Like it's not the way he wants to play games. He wants to, finish out the circle of toughness, running the football and play great defense. Now, are they going to be able to play great defense this year? I don't know. Like, it's going to be real tough considering what we just got rid of Dunlap, Mayoa, and Hyder, right? Not that I thought Hyder was anything special, but you wonder what the direction of the defense is really going here. Let alone the Bobby stuff. Like, that's a whole nother level, right?
The thing is, though, I still think it would have been best to bring Russell back for another season. And part of the reasoning for that, if I'm buying the answers that they're delivering to us, especially in this press conference, Pete got the question, to paraphrase, was the relationship at the point to where you think you could have continued to work together?
I've told you guys for a long time, Russ and I worked really hard at our relationship. Just like this relationship, it takes work. When you go through years and years and years and all of the challenges and the trials and tribulations and all, and we made it through it. Russ and I made it through it. And I love Russ. And he's like one of my own, and we went through so much stuff together. So it also brought us to the point where we could talk about this. Eventually, okay, now we're talking about it. And so we were able to move from there after our conversations and the depth of the conversations. We were able to move and okay, let's take a look at the opportunities. And this is what resulted out of it. I don't think it could have happened had we not had, in the fashion that it happened, had we not had the depth of relationship.
Based on that answer, it makes me think that, yes, this could have continued to function. And now when I see a guy like Deshaun Watson getting a huge contract, when I see all of these huge contracts coming down for some of these players, Aaron Rodgers, I look at the Russell Wilson cap number and think, man, you could go through this year, go through next year. If you're tired, if John Schneider's tired of dealing with Mark Rodgers, Russell Wilson's agent, you just say, hey, we're going the next 2 years of his contract. Then we're going to use the franchise tag on the third deal, and then we'll move, and then we'll work from there. And yeah, we're not talking about this for 3 years. If you wanted to really be tough about it, I think you could have made that happen. Now, maybe you wouldn't have had quite the positive relationship moving forward, but in terms of giving the team the best chance to win over the next 3 years, I think that would have been the way to do it.
Well, you said we're not going to be talking about it then for the next 3 years, except for that's all we would be talking about over the next 3 years. And I think that's really the long and short of it. I think Pete knows that they do need to retool here, and he's not getting any younger. So let's do it now. I think Russ wasn't going to have it for another year. That they've all made that pretty clear that he was done and he's going to be out. Otherwise, not so Mr. Nice Russ, right? Like the gloves are probably going to come off. So,
and one of the things that I thought was interesting from that answer too, is because the question was around the idea of if they could have continued to work together. Schneider jumped in there with just the one word answer right at the beginning, saying yes.
Yeah, I mean they could have been professional enough and all that stuff, but I think the energy really just needs to change around this team. We've all been asking for big change this offseason. Like we have. We've been doing it since the season ended.
I didn't want that big of a change. But
maybe
Pete,
not that kind, but yeah.
But Pete did say it wasn't about the relationship issues. It was about this being an opportunity.
It was really about opportunity. And I know Russ may describe it differently, but I really, as I watched it all take place, I think Russ was really... He was open for another chance and to see what could happen, and he'd seen a lot of great players and great athletes do a lot of great things by making that move somewhere in their career, whether it was the quarterbacks that we know of, what happens in the NBA, baseball guys do it, he's just seen that happen. And, I think it intrigued him. And so it made it available after a long discussion, a lot of time together and all of that we were eye to eye. We both, okay, all right, let's go down this road and see what happens. Knowing that it was still extraordinarily difficult to make a deal happen.
Once again, I think we hear from Pete here that it was Russ's idea. And I guess if you can tie that back into the philosophy piece with Pete early on, Pete wants everybody to be all in. It sounded like Russ wasn't all in. And so that, again, made it time to move on. They could have made it work, but if it was really matching up with Pete's philosophy, it was time to move.
Yeah, I think it was internally, but football sense wise, yeah, it seems like one more year. Because what if they go out there and they actually have that little retooling process this offseason and they had a really amazing season next year, won the division again, and maybe a playoff game? Does that mean Russ is still out the door? And on top of all that, I guess, I mean, you see the Watson deal, and I mean, do you want to be in $50 million a year quarterback land?
Definitely not for Watson. And I guess that's what it would ultimately take, probably, if you're looking to keep Russ at that point.
Yep.
The Rams were able to keep Stafford for what seemed like a reasonable-ish. I mean, he ended up at around $40 million a year?
Something like that.
I think that's just going to be the going rate for a quarterback who has the ability to win a Super Bowl now.
And then you see Joey B in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, you either have to do the young guy thing,
right,
or you have to do the proven vet thing.
Right. And, the proven vet thing, I think, is getting harder and harder and harder with the quarterback salaries going up, more and more and more. And I'd be curious if in percentage to the cap space or to the overall cap space, if it's continuing to rise. But I mean, you look at the Rodgers of the world. I mean, Brady takes his discount and always plays on a good team. Good for him. Mahomes, after he signed his big deal, he's not winning Super Bowls. They just had to get rid of Tyreek Hill because they couldn't pay him.
Right.
I mean, I'm starting to really wonder about the whole, top end quarterback thing money wise. And it hasn't been working for us the last few years. So, okay, well, if we're going to change, like, here we go. Let's have a big change. It's going to be interesting. Like, I'm done being mad about it. I kind of worked through the emotions and kind of got to the place of like, yeah, I was kind of sick of Russ in a lot of ways. So fine. But I also think that all those folks who were teenagers or adults during the 90s and watched those Seahawks teams, and they're all kind of freaking out being like, dudes, we can't just give up a franchise guy. It's going to be just like that for years and years and years. I think that's a very valid concern.
The potential is there, right?
Yeah.
After having gone through that, I don't want to go back to that point again. I don't want Drew Lock to be the first in a series of 15 guys before the next guy comes along, because it isn't a guarantee. So,
no.
But you know what? This is the time of year for second chances, Adam.
Oh God.
What I wanted to share with you is that I really think that free agency, in a sense, is about giving guys a second chance. And I hope we've been really clear to you that we believe in giving people second chances. We've fought for giving guys second chances. Yeah, heck, Johnny and I both have been in enough situations in our personal careers where second chances have been enormous for us. I mean, and there's been some historic second chances. You remember way back when we got here and we fought our butt off to get Marshawn Lynch to come here from Buffalo and give him a second opportunity to come back to life in football and see what he could do with a really clear thought of what we were after. We're after that guy to come here and bring his personality, his makeup, his nature, and see if he can influence this program. And it couldn't, the rest of the story couldn't be more clear.
When you heard Pete Carroll laying out the second chance argument, do you think he had a particular player in mind? This was before the Deshaun Watson signing and that whole tour. We got a really short answer from John Schneider when they asked if they were interested at all in Watson. And he said, well, the best way to answer that is that he's under contract and he has a no trade clause. It was interesting ultimately that we got word through the media that he turned the Seahawks down. So if there was something to that, I just wonder with Pete going so strong with the second chance argument, if he was trying to lay the groundwork there or if it was simply a call out to the philosophy aspect again of what he believes. And hey, anybody who's a guy out there, come to Seattle because this is the type of philosophy that I bring. And this is the type of team that I want to build as guys who think that this is a great second chance opportunity. Maybe he was talking about Drew Lock.
Yeah. I mean, he might've been talking about Drew a little bit. I think they are a little fired up about him, but when I was hearing him do the second chance thing, I was just spinning because that just felt exactly like you said, just getting everybody primed for a possible Watson deal, which I definitely didn't want. And it had me afraid. It had me really afraid there for a second that that's what they were looking to do. And then when they were talking all about how they're going for it this year, and they're going to be winning games and all that stuff right freaking now. As I think Pete said, I think that was the quote.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh no, like this is what they're doing. They're thinking that they can get in on this Watson thing, but I would be surprised if we don't hear the tune change a little bit from Pete now that Watson deal is done and they are definitely out of it, and talk about growth and seeing guys compete and all of that stuff. I have a feeling that's what we're going to hear a lot more of, rather than, we're winning games this year right freaking now.
Yeah, because this was Pete Carroll when he was asked what to expect for 2022.
Winning freaking football games and a bunch of
it is.
Really, and getting the feeling. Last year kind of sucked, and that was that one time, we had that kind of space in the schedule here, and we're just going right back to business. We're going for it. So everybody's coming here. It's going to be part of this. Is well aware, and that's the only way we're looking at it. Let's go right now.
Winning frickin' football games.
Right.
That's what I want to be about too. And I'm even fine about it being an opportunity for second chances for some guys. One of those guys out there looking for a second chance, and Pete even talked about him, Colin Kaepernick, a potential second chance opportunity for him.
He contacted me the other day, said, "Hey, I'd like to get a shot. I'm working out." And so he sent me some videos. The next thing I know, he's working out with Tyler Lockett. I don't know how that happened, but does that guy deserve a second shot? I think he does. Somewhere. I don't know if it's here. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's even in football. I don't know. But it's just people get a second opportunity at their lifetime opportunities, and they can make the most of it if they're ready for it and all that. I don't know. I don't mean to send out any mixed messages about that, but I wanted you to understand that that's how serious this is. It's second chance time.
When Pete said it may not even be in football, it kind of made me think that it's probably not going to be in Seattle.
Or anywhere. Look, Kaepernick was a so-so quarterback when he played his last game for the 49ers. And he's been out of football for 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah.
That's not easy. You don't just come back from that. It's just his time has passed as a professional quarterback. That's just gone now. So, yeah, sure, he deserves a second chance to go on with his life and be successful, no doubt about it. But Pete's speaking like I think every other NFL exec is thinking, it's just probably not in football.
And they may bring him in for a tryout this offseason, and that's fine.
Why not?
Exactly. When your other options are what they are, then having a tryout, it's not going to hurt anything.
Not going to hurt anything. I see some people kind of get spun up about it, like, wow, look at how can you do that? Just let him come in and take some practice reps. Who gives a crap? If he's off the team by preseason game 1, and can't hack it, then so what?
Or even if you see him in preseason game 1, I mean, it's the preseason. You get 3 games.
Right. Oh, I know. Yeah, I thought a lot of the hoopla that popped out of that one was like, why are we all freaking out?
Yeah. When Pete said his second chance may not even be in football, I think it gave us an idea of where Pete's thinking was with regard to Kaepernick.
The thing that drove me the most nuts about that statement is, well, I'm not trying to send out any mixed messages with my mixed messages, so don't mixed message me. Come on, dude. If you're not trying, then don't put his name out there.
Definitely sending some mixed messages. Well, he got an opportunity for a straightforward answer with this because he was asked directly, can the Seahawks win a championship with Drew Lock at quarterback?
If he plays like he did early on, I think he got a shot. If you go back to his first year when he was balling as a rookie, when he was 4-1.
He tied John Elway's record for most wins as a rookie, right?
Yeah, in 5 games. His third down numbers, were terrific. Taking care of the football really well, and all. It just didn't, for whatever reason, the coordinator left after that time. Times changed for him, and he didn't play to that same level. So exactly what we had evaluated, John's, the process had evaluated, he showed. And so, John stayed with it and followed him all the way through his career, and we've watched it happen. We think he's still that guy. And so we'll see, if he can. What we need in our offense is the same thing we've always needed, whether it was Carson Palmer or Russell Wilson. We need a point guard. We need a guy that plays the game and moves the football around to the guys that are open and does all of the things that manages the game so that we can play great football. Because we're going to win with defense. We're going to win with how we play in special teams, and we'll run the football to help the whole thing fit together. That's never changed. It's never been a philosophy that we needed to alter, other than to continue to grow and make it dynamic and present and current and all. And that's what we're looking for. We need to take care of the football.
Who are they trying to sell this John Elway stuff to? Like, who is buying this? John Elway was a rookie in 1983 and played 10 games and won 4 games and threw for 1,600 yards.
On a god-awful team.
On a terrible team.
Yeah. So it's not like he was going to put up 10 wins and then, this whole idea. Well, I mean, Drew Lock, he broke his record, Oh, yeah, all 4 games of them? Well, he did it in 5 games.
Wow, the really impressive 7 touchdown passes that John Elway threw his rookie season. Oh, he broke that record. Wow.
Look, there were some throws in that year and some moments that you went, maybe there's something here. But to really hang your hat on that, I don't know. I think that just goes back to their evaluation of Drew in comparison to any of the rookies that are coming out in this class. I think that they feel he's a better prospect than all but maybe 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's one that John really likes.
I can see that. I'm curious to know which one it might be, but it does. I do get the sense that there's somebody out there that he likes, but they're going to keep looking at quarterback. That's what we heard from them.
We'll continue to explore options, but we have a ton of faith in Drew. We're excited about it. We're excited about a change of scenery for him. I know a couple of my buddies who were trying to acquire him all last spring into the fall, so he's a guy that, in my opinion, the media's beat down a little bit. So we're excited to get him into our culture with our coaching staff, and we'll continue to look for guys to compete with them. As Pete has stated earlier, Gino did a nice job for us. There's a number of guys that are still available, and we're going to continue to work through that.
And I'm a little bit mad at John for that answer, because I'm already seeing fans who are buying in on this 100%. A lot of you sending messages about Drew Lock like you're Terrell Owens defending Tony Romo already. I'm not mad because, you want to be behind your quarterback. I'm just going to wait and see who my quarterback is before I jump behind him.
Oh, yeah. Look, Drew can go out there and compete with whoever else they bring in, and I'm good with it. I'm good with him being one of the dudes to compete for the starting reps and see what that brings out in him and go from there. I definitely think watching Gino go through an offseason where he has a legit shot to be the man with maybe a real running game that we saw towards the end of the year would be interesting. Now, to do those sort of things, they're going to have to go out and get guys that play this position called tackle. They're the ones on the ends of the offensive line.
Do you need those guys? You need those?
They tend to be important. Yeah.
They're kind of missing guys, with Dwayne Brown not signed yet, with Trent Brown signing back with the Patriots after he was in for a visit. It's moves like that, not getting a guy like Trent Brown and then seeing Austin Blythe at center sign for $4 million.
Which is fine.
Pay somebody 1 or 2 and give extra to Trent Brown to make sure that he stays.
That was never going to be the case. It sounds like Trent Brown was really excited to go back to the Patriots. A lot like Rashad Penny was excited to come back to Seattle. I think that was kind of the idea there.
Penny was excited to come back to Seattle because he got almost $6 million to come back to Seattle.
For 1 year. I don't understand why you're mad at 1-year deals in a year that we're going to stink. It's not like this is hamstringing us for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Who gives a crap what they spend this year and on whom for the most part?
You can roll that money over to the next year.
A little of it. I mean, it's not like $4 and $6 million is not like overpaying for an end or a corner or a quarterback or something like that. We're talking about closer to, league minimum deals than the upper echelon of salary.
Okay, well, why wouldn't you just pay Posick to come back for 2 rather than spending an extra 2? Yeah, So Blythe isn't all that much better. The difference between Blythe and Posick is not $2 million worth of difference.
You don't know that. And on top of that, on top of all of that, like, it's time for a change. We know Posick isn't the answer. And so you can pick up this guy for a year and see if he's the answer. If he's not, so be it. It's a 1-year deal. Whoop-de-doo.
I can tell you right now he's not the answer. He's played center.
I know you think
he
you
played
can say
center
that.
for one like okay-ish year in LA. And then he went to KC, played a whole 12 snaps last year. Now he had a rookie in front of him that was good, but it seems like a waste to me.
You're way too upset over $4 freaking million. $4 freaking million, and you're having a mini meltdown over Austin Blythe.
I'd rather give extra money to Penny for a second year than have.
No.
Yeah, I would.
Why would you? Apparently, time and money we value very differently, because to me, the time aspect is the one that you don't want to get tied up in. A little bit of money, whatever. To get tied up into Penny for a second year, oh, hell no. I thought that was the perfect deal. You pay a little bit of good money, make sure he comes back for 1 year and prove it. And a year that you don't know if you're going to be any good or not anyways.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great deal. I was glad to see him come back for a year.
I'm fine with the Penny deal. It was right at the top of kind of where I had in my mind of a 1-year deal for Penny. So,
right.
And based on what you said about John wanting to kind of prove, maybe being willing to overpay a little bit to prove that he knew what he was doing when he made the Penny pick, then maybe it was a little bit of him wanting to prove something with this deal.
Oh, I definitely think Salty John had a part in this in terms of, making sure that he brings Penny back, because they definitely saw the success at the end of the year, and he wants to rub a full season of that in everybody's face. And I'll take it.
And count me as part of the group of people who doesn't buy the agent speak of, oh, Penny turned down more money to go elsewhere to come back to Seattle. Yeah, okay. Maybe he got $6 million over a 2-year deal versus $5 million on a 1-year deal. And so he turned down, quote unquote, more money over 2 years just so he could come back and play for it. Penny wasn't turning down a 2-year, $10 million deal for a 1-year, $5 million deal. I guarantee you that.
He was giving up years, not dollars. There's no doubt. And this gets him another bite at the apple sooner. Like, that's ideal for NFL free agents, especially at his age.
If you can make $5 million guaranteed and you can get a prove it type deal, he's absolutely taking that over a couple-year deal to where he doesn't have that potential next year. It's a better deal for him. Now, maybe not necessarily if he gets hurt again next year, but even still, I mean, somebody's going to sign him for a minimum deal after this year anyway, just based on his status as a first-round pick. Even if he were to get hurt, I bet he would. I bet somebody would pay even more than veteran minimum going into next year. So, yeah.
But if he puts together a good year, he's going to get paid.
Oh, yeah. He'll get paid.
And that's what he's after. And he's betting on himself that way. And good for him.
We talked about whether or not the Seahawks were going to be going for it in 2022. And this was the answer from John Schneider that had me thinking he's looking long-term here, especially when you consider the draft pick compensation as part of the Russell Wilson package.
To be able to get the 9th pick, right? And then to be able to, get to 40 and 41 for us was big, especially in this draft. And, we're going to pick 8 times. I say that I have no idea how many times we're going to pick, right? It's really big. And then especially next year when the majority of the cap space comes into effect with Russell's contract, and then the draft capital next year as well with the 2 1s and the 2 2s. So 4 picks in the first 2 rounds.
If he doesn't see this as a long-term type rebuild, not long-term, but a multi-year rebuild, I don't think he brings up the fact that Russell Wilson's dead cap money comes off after next season.
100%. This is let's throw spaghetti at the wall this year, see what happens. And if we win, we win. And if we lose, even better. I honestly, I think that's what their mentality is going into this year. They're obviously going to compete every week and try to be the best team that they can be with the roster that they have. But they're just looking for hidden gems and going from there and see what they can get out of these draft picks. If they nail these 2 drafts with all these high-end picks, I mean, do at least the NFL average of hit half of those, these 2 2s and the 2 1s. I guess it'd be a total of 3 1s. This year's 1 and then 2 1s next year. All right, let's see what happens. Like if they nail on half of those and you get the type of pedigree that Yatu out of those, this team's going to look a lot different.
Absolutely. And one of the things that is going to make it look a lot different, man, we heard Pete, he sounded more devastated about moving on from Bobby than he did moving on from Russell Wilson. I mean, compare the tone of Pete's voice about losing Russ that we heard earlier to losing Bobby Wagner.
We lose a guy like Bobby Wagner. It was a heartbreaking decision to make. We love Bobby Wagner. He's done everything in the world he could possibly do with a football opportunity as he's had. A Hall of Famer, going to be on the stadium. A guy around town. Everything he's ever touched has been golden. And we have to make a tough decision, just like we started with him. And so he goes on. We wish him the best and love him to death. And hopefully he'll feel that back. Most of our guys come back, and they all come back, and they live in town. They live together. They like being here because they reconnect with our culture. And it's a special place in that regard. I don't mind telling you that, and I'm proud of that. We worked really hard to get that done.
Pounding the table about Bobby Wagner.
So I'm still confused. Why did they have to let Bobby out the door? Why?
I don't know if they had to.
That's it for me. If you're not going to go out and sign offensive linemen and you're not going to make a big push in free agency and all that and spend all that cap space, why do you let Bobby Wagner out the door to conclude his legacy somewhere else? Unless he wanted to go somewhere else, which, listening to him, I don't think he did. I think he would have been very happy to finish out his career in Seattle. This did not seem like we had to make this move and we lost Bobby Wagner. No, you chose to let him go. It was nice hearing him talk passionately about Bobby because he's 100% right. He's earned all of our respect and love forever as a football fan, right? But at the end of the day, that answer pissed me off to no end because no, you didn't have to let him go. You did not have to.
You chose to.
Cantor won't. Cantor won't. It wasn't that you couldn't keep him. It's that you wouldn't keep him. Don't give me that bullshit. Catfish. Oh, that one twisted me up, man.
Yeah, it's tough to deal with. And aside from it maybe being a philosophy type thing, maybe part of this move to a more of a 3-4 style defense, which Bobby Wagner could fit in just fine. Maybe unless you're philosophically of becoming a younger team is part of it too. I still think having a guy like Wagner, a guy like Quandre, both of those guys to show the young guys how to move forward. I think there was a way to make it work. Pete made it sound like he exhausted every single options. Probably the most unfortunate thing, though, was the fact that B-Wags was out on Twitter after the move saying that he didn't hear the news straight from the team. And
yeah.
He didn't hear it from the media, but the fact that it didn't come from Pete and John, it was unfortunate. But they did take ownership of it, I guess.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's on me. I own that.
Yeah, I say that. It's on me.
No, it really is. It's look, it's. I wish I could have handled things better in that regard from a communication standpoint. I owe to him. The organization owes it to him. It's always somewhat awkward when a player represents himself. We've had some very high profile individuals represent themselves here, and you never know exactly what's going to happen at the end of the day. So to approach somebody and say there may be a possible trade, would you consider this? And then that player comes back to you. That's not a good situation. So from a timing standpoint, I wish I would have handled things differently.
Yeah, I'm guilty too because I didn't want it to happen. I want Bobby to stay with us forever, and so I wanted and kept encouraging John, let's see what all the options could possibly be. So maybe there's a way out that we don't have to do this, And so we were each day was crucial as we were drawing closer to it. And then really, it seemed like when Russ's news went out, then everything, hit the fan kind of thing. And I don't know, we were supposed to meet with Bobby a couple of days after that, and the timing just didn't work out right. And I regret that we didn't do a better job timing wise.
Okay. Sure. They should have definitely gotten to him before everything else. He was definitely owed that. There's no doubt about it. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a deal is this? Like a 3, a 2?
Oh, sure. Yeah, probably.
Like then, all the headlines and all the people, whatever, dude. Like, just, okay, fine. It is what it is. At this point, if we all haven't moved on from that, like, I don't know.
No, I think it was worth the headlines when it came out in the moment because it was unfortunate. And I think they owed it a response when it came to the press conference. So, yeah, that's why I covered it.
Okay, well, good job.
So, yeah, maybe we should all be over it by now, but sure.
I don't know. That was just a story. That was a part of it. I was just like, oh, right. And then that happened. Well, okay.
It's not something that you want to linger on, like your dislike.
Am I lingering there?
The thing that I feel like some people are lingering on that I can't get with is that Russell Wilson didn't say more than, I don't know, like 6 words when he said farewell to Seattle. And you see like Gerald Everett writing these long posts thanking Seattle, a dude who was here for 1 year. It is kind of funny to compare the two, but the things that I'm mad about, it's Russell Wilson's farewell Twitter post is probably not one of the things that I would linger on too much.
Firstly, where did it happen?
It was on Twitter.
Oh, then it doesn't matter. No, and then on top of all of that, like, I'm not a soap opera guy. Like this man opera that is the NFL, and especially the NFL offseason. I just don't get all that wound up one way or the other over the stuff that just doesn't freaking matter. And like, if Russ had just tweeted a picture of a middle finger, Earl Thomas style, like after the deal was done, like, sure, that would have pissed me off a little bit for a minute, but also too, at the end of the day, I've been like, fine, good riddance. Like it really, I just couldn't care less.
One of the things I care about is the strong reaction. I'm fascinated by the reactions to this press conference with Pete and John because there have been strong reactions both ways.
All over the map.
Yeah. Ivan on YouTube said, completely disagree with your take. This was after our kind of immediate reaction following the press conference. Said, completely disagree with your take. Pete and John were nervous, defensive, and scared looking. They don't seem confident at all. Seahawks are the new Browns.
Well, we would be if we got Baker, I guess, but
see, that's a little bit of a low blow. Baker, he took the Browns. I'm a little bit pissed about what the Browns did to Baker because they were an 0-16 football team. They bring in Baker, and he brought them to their first playoff win in franchise history since the 1980s. The Browns were good when I was like 10. And they've stunk ever since. And Baker was the quarterback. Now, it wasn't just Baker. I understand that. Part of that was Nick Chubb, too. Some of the pieces that they got on defense. But they got a quarterback that finally got him out of that purgatory position that was Cleveland for so long. And I think that was wrong for them to move on from Baker and do him that way.
They found an offensive line, defensive line, and running back that got them in their organization turned around, and we saw Baker Mayfield do game manager things and come along for the ride to go to the playoffs, which is fine. I mean, I think that's how Pete would like to play to a large degree. And with that said, this is why I'm out on Baker. We've seen what it looks like when he's not making any money and has all the talent in the world around him, what the ceiling of that is. And it's a possible 1 win in the playoffs team and then out. That's the ceiling of Baker Mayfield. We've seen it. I would much rather roll with Heinicke just to see what that would entail. But then again, we've saw
what level of quarterbacking gets the Browns to a Super Bowl with the group that they had there. If it wasn't Baker,
I think Fitzmagic would have got him there.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is a Super Bowl winning franchise quarterback.
I saw Nick Foles win a Super Bowl.
They weren't going to make and win a Super Bowl with Foles at the quarterback spot that entire year.
Oh, no. I agree. But they're a step above Baker. Like, I got just anybody
Foles winning the Super Bowl at quarterback is like the flukiest of all fluky Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in NFL history in the last 25 years.
Trent Dilfer just called and he disagrees.
They had a legendary defense. I'm fine with Trent Dilfer winning. They had one of the all-time defenses of all time.
Sure.
So
I totally agree.
Put anybody at quarterback that for a Trent, and that's fine. I'm just saying that there's nothing about that Eagles team that was particularly special.
I know. I'm with you.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I don't think they go... I don't think they fall any shorter than they did with Baker with Case Keenum at quarterback that year. I think it's about the same result. Look, when you and Clinton and I were talking in the group text about this, I sat down and just went through division by division, wrote down all the quarterbacks I'd rather have than Baker. And it was at least 17, at least.
Which makes him a top 6 quarterback in the NFC this year.
Yeah, that might be true, I guess. I don't know.
Stephen Harrison checked in at gettintheflock.com, said, I would pick Pete over Russ any day. Russ kept the team competitive, but was never able to put a full season together or show up and carry the team in the playoffs. Lynch was a true superstar who took over games when it mattered. I wanted Russ gone the day I saw him sucking up to Goodell.
I get that. That was an ugly look. But the fact of the matter is the last 2 to 3 years of Russ, 2.5 years of Russ, has not been consistent. It has not been very clutchy. And there's been some health concerns that get mixed in with that. And on top of all of that, now you put an age factor on the thing and a new contract coming up in the $50 million a year range. And good luck, Broncos. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to buy into the age argument with Russ just yet. I'm kind of with, maybe not quite with Jerv, the number of years that he's talking about here, but Jerv Reed, gettintheflock.com, he said, after listening to both press conferences, I have high faith that Russ will make it to at least 8 years of playing and 1 to 2 Super Bowls, and I have never been so disgusted by Pete's presser talking about second chances, where they're actually looking at Drew Lock as a starter this year. In Russ, I trust. In Pete coach speak, I do not. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Hey, look, again, another strong reaction from the total opposite side of the spectrum. Again, I would have, just like you, Brandon, enjoyed one more year of Russ to see if there could be some consistency that he could find again. The play on the field didn't match his reputation as of late. And that's something that I think we should all wrap our heads around. And when it did start to look right, was it because he got it together or because the offensive line and the running game got it together?
The thing for me was that after we saw that great start in 2020, that he couldn't make that necessary adjustment in the second half when defenses really started to key in on what the team was doing. And he couldn't make that adjustment to run the ball more, to check it down more, to throw over the middle, to tight ends more. There was never that piece of the adjustment. And that hit at the middle of the season. And if they couldn't work that out over the final 8 games, whether that was, I don't think it was a Schottenheimer issue because, gosh, we've seen Russell Wilson's gone through enough offensive coordinators now to make me know that it's not Russell Wilson and an offensive coordinator type problem. This is a Russell Wilson problem.
Yeah, that's what it started to feel like. Once a coincidence, twice the trend, 3 times the you problem. 3 different coordinators, 3 different times they get the same kind of problems.
Ultimately, we end the season with scribble plays.
Scribble plays and kill shots. And an inability to throw a screen.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody who wrote in, who gave their reaction, and we're going to have a lot more to react to throughout this offseason.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you say we get
especially when? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, let's do it. Second half. I cut you off in your transition. I'm a crappy co-host, Brandon. I'm a crappy co-host.
We're going to the second half of the show now. See, now I feel like I cut you off. as we get into the second half. The way the last half ended, you made me feel like I cut you off, and I don't even know what you're going to say.
I'm not responsible for your feelings. If that's how you feel, that's how it is. So if you want to feel bad over there, you feel bad, which you should, but just feel bad if you want. That's fine.
I have so many things to feel bad about. This is kind of low on the list.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
In terms of Seahawks things.
Right. This is right around whether or not you told Wags at any particular time when he was not on the team. Is it down there? Is it above or below that?
Below that. I still feel bad about Wags.
Ouch. What an injustice. I'm holding out.
We'll see how long that lasts.
I see how much you care about my feelings. Okay.
I care a little bit, but your feelings about the transition going into the break, I care about your feelings toward other things more than your feelings toward that.
I just care so much about how much you care about all of my feelings. So that's nice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
What were you going to talk about when I cut you off?
I don't even remember now. That's the fun part. During the break, I peed and then it's all gone.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, I think I was going to say something about it'll be interesting to see which quarterback they grab out of this draft. They had something to tie into your last statement because I think that's going to be the big one. I'm on pins and needles because when John looked at everybody, it was like, they're like, oh, there's no good quarterbacks. And he's like, says who? That was the part that I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're definitely drafting one of these dudes.
Well, I'm trying to think of the pro days. Has there been a John Schneider sighting at a pro day yet?
I haven't seen a report of one yet. I think they've had people at all.
I don't think that they were at Willis's.
Oh, I think they were.
No, I mean John.
Oh, John. I don't think John's been at any of them so far. Yeah.
The only pro days that I really watched for were Willis and Corral.
You have any Corral feelings?
I didn't watch any of his pro day stuff yet.
Why?
I mean, of the guys I think that have the most athletic upside, I think it's Willis and Corral.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of decision making and arm strength and that kind of thing, I feel like they're lower on the list than some of the other guys.
I actually really like Corral's decision making for the most part. If you can throw out the one Arkansas game, he had one of those. Remember when Russ went to Green Bay and threw like 40 interceptions in a game?
Maybe that was the one game that I picked to watch too.
Was it the Arkansas one?
I think so.
Yeah. The thing that impressed me about him was go back and look at his two performances against Alabama. Now, did they lose both those games? Sure. But Alabama, the first year, was like a top 5 team led by Mac Jones and played in a game where defense was beyond optional. Like the Ole Miss defense just didn't come along because I'm watching, every throw of Corral, right? And that whole offense. And, every time he has the ball, he's down 7-14, even though he's scoring about every stinking drive. He's down 56-47 or something, because the defense couldn't stop anybody. But, competing at the highest level against NFL caliber talent, he can do it. The one thing that I was really down on when I watched him the first time was just arm strength. But then the more and more that you watch, every so often it comes out like he'll complete a 56 yarder where the guy didn't have to wait on it. Like, and it's kind of like his feet and everything have to sync up just right to get it out there like that. But after watching a lot of it with his mobility, his decision-making, his leadership, he's got just enough mobility and speed, I think, to be an effective scrambler. And if you think about all these guys in this draft, the most point guardy guy out of all of them, I think, is Corral.
Well, I'll go back and watch some of the Alabama games then.
Yeah, he's my favorite of all of them for our fit and our system from this year's class. But, again, he's not a slam dunk by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and I got that sense when they were talking about Drew Lock in comparison with the rookies. I think that I think they even said explicitly if he were coming out this year, right?
He might be the best of them.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be true. The big thing that concerns me about the Corral stuff is just it's all RPO, that entire offense for the most part. But sometimes he had to read the field and do all that, and he could do it. He had some kind of, fun playmaker moments where he just kind of pulled a rabbit out of his hat and all that. But the way that I've got on these quarterbacks over the years, the two worst misses by far were Mahomes and Herbert. And it's because they were both playing in a gimmicky offense and they were just wild. So I'm trying to take my hate for very simplistic college offense and take that out of my evaluation of some of these guys this year and just try to look at the skill set. And so I'm trying not to kill Corral that way, because I don't know how many of these dudes can get underneath center, at least right now. It might take him a year.
Yeah. Well, we had a quarterback that didn't play a ton under center either. So
yeah, I know.
Well, the Seahawks are going to look different this next year. The NFL is going to look different.
There's been
a lot happening.
Yeah. It's amazing to watch the AFC West load up, and then
Devontae Adams going to the Raiders, and then not loading up. Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins.
Right.
We're seeing big wide receiver moves, which we haven't seen a ton of. I don't think we've ever seen wide receiver moves quite like we have with Adams and Hill.
Not with this volume.
I'm trying to think of the last receiver that brought in really that kind of haul.
What did they give up for Diggs? Buffalo. What did they give up for Diggs?
I think, wasn't it just a first?
Probably.
Okay, maybe your sense was right there. It was 4 picks. Well, let's see. In exchange for 4 picks, including a 2021 first-round pick. So, okay, maybe they're just following the market there that was kind of set with that Diggs trade to Buffalo.
And Amari Cooper.
How did the Texans trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals for what they I still don't get that trade.
You can forever be mad about that one, and you're totally righteous in it. I'm on board. Because that was one of those like, why?
It should have been a Diggs style, a Devontae Adams style deal.
Felt like they were just mad at us for fleecing them so many times in trades, and so they were like, well, screw it. We'll give D-Hop to the Cards and just, give the Seahawks a middle finger.
Bill O'Brien was halfway out the door. He's like, this is going to be my one shot out the door. This is just to screw the Seahawks and the NFC West.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of drama, a lot of trades. It's going to be an extremely interesting year. The quarterback carousel has been beyond fascinating. The Matt Ryan to the Colts thing is like, I saw somebody make a post and like, that's the most Colts thing ever. And it kind of feels that way. But then again, he could be just competent and that team's good. Just hand it off to Jonathan Taylor a bunch and hope for the best.
Make some throws when you need to make them.
No, make some throws when you don't need to make them and then hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. Because you can't rely on Matt Ryan to make the big time throws when you really need them.
Well, with Calvin Ridley being gone and being down to Kyle Pitts as his only receiver, it kind of made sense for him to get out too. Yeah,
no, it's time for them to rebuild. They held on to their quarterback too long. Jameis back to the Saints was interesting. And,
Mariota did Mariota go? Falcons. Oh, he went to the Falcons.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if the Panthers had actually gotten somebody yet.
No, not yet.
See where they go. Falcons picking right ahead of the Seahawks in the draft.
You gotta expect the Seahawks are going to load up on defense in this draft.
I don't want to see them take quarterback with their first pick in round 1 this year.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. The highest draft pick I'd like to spend on a quarterback this year is a 3rd.
Way down there, huh? Even if Corral is there with a 2nd.
I would go up to a 2nd. After watching Corral, I developed a crush. I'm not in love. I developed a small crush.
You don't want to get hurt.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, he's got potential, but there's some relationship flaws there that we'd have to do some serious work on.
Well, I know there's some folks out there that we don't need to work through any kind of relationship issues with. That's our members of the flock.
They complete us.
Starting with our executive producers, DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen.
Scholars, all of them. I was going to say scholars and gentlemen, but that would be a slap in the face to Rebecca. So.
She is not a gentleman.
She's better than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ben Krall comes in at $12 for the year, says, hey guys, I've been freeloading for a few years now. Since I was fresh out of college and dead broke, I've had the state of Alaska paying my bills for a bit now. I literally work on the floor of the House of Representatives passing notes and such, which is precisely as entertaining as you might think. So I knew I owed you flock admission sometime soon. With the team self-immolating due to Russ's the decision bullshit, catfish! Now seems like the moment to thank both of you for the work you've done and will do to make this next epoch of Seahawks football bearable. You're my favorite football pod, even if I disagree with half the catfish Adam says. I'm a fellow ranter, and game respects game.
I feel you.
Quick thoughts on the Hawkpocalypse. I'd almost prefer to be a bad team, which came by it honestly, as opposed to the rolling human rights violation, which was Ken Norton's soft zone defense. While the NFL played Grandmaster Chess, he played tic-tac-toe. Now we can suck the honest way by not having a good quarterback. To that end, I figure next year's QB1 has one job: keep DK happy enough to re-sign. Drew Lock seems qualified. Cannon arm, forces passes, should add to DK's highlight reel, even if it costs him 20 interceptions. Malik Willis is the only draftable quarterback who seems to have real upside. His college highlights look downright Wilsonian, even if he is a one-read then scramble guy right now. Read DK/Lockett, then run for your life sounds halfway viable until we load up on running backs and build the offense off that. On a final breakup thought, I had an ex like Russell. Smoking hot, high achieving, way out of my league. Seemed cool for a while. Thing was, though, she was fake. Fake. Fakest person I've ever known. Is he talking about his girlfriend or Russ?
I think the answer is yes.
So that's what I want in our next quarterback. An authentic freaking person, not some robot designed to be what we want, not what we need. What? I'm not better. You're better. Go Hawks from Ben.
Ben, I'm 100% on board with you. Even the half the time when you don't agree with me, I'm 100% on board with you. I'm not bitter. Russ is bitter. It's all Russ's fault. What a bitter guy. Fake, too. If you really want the genuine article, I mean, not that Drew Lock's not a genuine guy, but then you should be all in for some Minshew mania. I just think it'd be fun. But I appreciate Ben coming in, donating, man. If I ever get up to Alaska, which is on the docket one of these days, if I get into trouble, I know who to call now, because you can pass some notes for me on the house floor, and maybe we can make some things go away. So it's nice having you in the flock, bud.
Good connection there.
Yeah.
Jacob Haas gave us a raise from $1 to $5 a month. Jacob comes in and says, "Hi, Brandon and Adam. This is my first time saying something. Just thought I'd say hello, even though it's months and months late. I was just checking out our 2022 opponents, and it looks like we don't have to wait that long to see Russ. Also, before you forget, waffles are better than pancakes." Did Jacob put that in there for us to remind him? Because I thought he was pancakes are better than waffles guy.
I don't know. If he was, then he found the light, and his taste buds appreciate it, and his mouth does too. So I think it's something that we need to come back to on the regular. It's like reestablishing your philosophy. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, do you change from waffles to pancakes? Coach Wooden says no. If you're a waffles guy, you always stick with waffles. And Jacob just wanted to make sure that we're sticking to waffles.
Oh no, it's Blake. Blake is pancakes over waffles in the pick'em. And Jacob just coming in to come correct and remind us that yes, and to remind Blake that waffles are in fact better than pancakes. Which isn't even a controversial take. That's just reality.
Facts.
B came in at $1, says, "New listener / member here. Now that Russ is gone, when I hear you say, quote, there's only one thing left to say at the end of each episode, in my head I hear there's only one thing left to say, and we're the ones saying it. Go Hawks. Keep up the great work."
Maybe there's a change in order this season. I don't know. We didn't have a meeting about this, but should we change to...
We're the only ones saying it?
Yeah.
We're not the only ones, though.
Yeah, we're not. That'd be factually incorrect. Can't go that way. See, we had to workshop it first.
BB came in at 220 NOK, Norwegian krona per month.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
I was a little Corona light.
I don't even know if BB is in Norway, but somehow paid in Norwegian krona, which is cool. BB says
it absolutely is. How else are you going to launder rubles?
maybe that's how it works.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I started to listen to you many years ago, and my Patreon account fell off after I lost my wallet or some bullshit. Catfish! I meant to get back on, and time went by, and that was like over a half a decade ago. I have slacked, but the parting of Wilson spurred me to renew. I don't know why, but it could be a series of dark years ahead. I don't know. This weekend, I am also going to donate my Wilson jersey to the Goodwill, and I am going to purchase a vintage Dave Craig jersey. We'll take you two, brothers. I will keep listening. From BB.
Hey, man. BB, appreciate it, man. And appreciate the Corona. It's not, or Corona. Rona.
Yeah.
There we go.
Not Corona.
No, I mean, maybe you can use Corona to buy Corona. I don't know. We're going to find out. But yeah, it's interesting to think about the idea of a few dark years here. But also, too, like, I'm glad that we doubled down going into this before Russ made his decision. And just to ride or die with this podcast, keep it going. And it's you guys, man, with your donations and everything that's inspiring and helps reaffirm that decision.
David Van Cleve reaffirming his decision to keep supporting the show. I know he flipped over from PayPal over to getintheflock.com in at 1212. So thanks to David Van Cleve.
Oh, yeah. He's always got some awesome stuff for the Ring of Honor, man.
Always.
Van Cleve's the man.
Mark Antrobus gave us a raise from 30 pounds to 48 pounds. Says, hi, fellas. Just a note to say that I think we're all really going to need your therapy-like podcast to see us through the next 2 to 3 painful years of the rebuild. So I've upped my membership to 48 pounds per year to help ensure you guys keep producing the goods. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. We're in. We're all in. Jody Allen's excited about how we're all in this year.
If you want to get in the flock, you can go to getintheflock.com. Sign up for, it's a value for value type thing. Whatever value you get out of the show, you can just let us know, pick that value amount, and you can support us any way you want.
Right. But it's an unfair model because if you end up with less value, like minus value after listening to the show, we're not giving you money.
No. What website will we have to set up to where people go?
One that's never going to exist.
The negative value. And some other ways people provide value to the show is by sending in some email. So we've got one here. It says, hi, Brandon and Adam. I had planned on a longer mail with lots of catfishing and ranting, but I've decided against it. As we all know, what's done is done. The bottom is, I started to support this franchise after watching the NFL for 2 to 3 years. I picked the Seahawks mid-2010. Now I'm an avid supporter. As devastated I am from the losses of both Bobby and Russ, the bottom line is no player is bigger than the club. We all need to regroup and move on. Hopefully we get a decent quarterback sooner than later. I do see us as mid-range team over the next few years, but I will still be shouting for them no matter what. I have my own theory on the Russ trade. With both Russ and Pete power struggle, I think back to a certain meeting between Jody Allen and Pete not so long ago. Who's to say she's not the one to tell Pete and John if Russ is causing issues to get rid of him? As I said, no player is bigger than the club. Anyway, let's finish on a good note and positive for the future. Also, catfish! The Cards, Niners, and of course, the filthy Rams. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. Love the email. Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, after I was done crying on my waterproof pillowcases when I went to bed over Russ and Bobby leaving.
You got waterproof pillowcases?
For these kind of days, yes. I cry myself to sleep often, Brandon. It's a sad life.
Often enough for a waterproof pillowcase. I needed to know.
Yeah. Well, apparently you don't drool as much as everybody else then if you don't have any either.
I'm not going to lie. I have one of those too.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, but I'm a big time, I found out that I was more of a Seattle Seahawks fan than a Russell Wilson's fan. Like, you learn these things through these sort of situations, and that's where it's at for me.
Well, I mean, you were a Matt Hasselbeck fan. That was your quarterback initially.
Heck yeah, man.
We had to deal with that transition.
Oh, no doubt about it. And while rough there for a little bit, we also got, a little T-Jack in there, and that was kind of fun for a minute. And I'm just trying to enjoy this next year for what it is. That last email, they talked about the idea of being a middle-of-the-road team. That's like death. It's like almost the one thing I don't want to see, but maybe I'm wrong.
Part of me is curious to see just how many wins Geno could get us with, everything else. Like if we get the thunder and lightning approach with Chris Carson and Rashad Penny that we've been kind of hoping for over all these years, I kind of want to see it.
Well, it will be interesting because I listened to the Penny press conference here just before we hopped on. And the one nugget that I got out of that, somebody asked Penny, when's the last time you talked to Carson and, how's things going for him and all that? And he kind of smirked and he's like, I talk to Chris every day. And we're really looking forward to being the best 1-2 punch in the league, and that we both feel like we're past the health things now. And we just, want to be the best duo that we can. And what I got out of that was just the idea that Carson looks like, at least to Penny, that he's coming back. I would have guessed that Carson maybe never came back after the neck injury, but maybe just by changing the roles, having Penny as the lead back and Carson as a secondary back, maybe that will be the key to unlock a full healthy season for them both and manage the load a little better. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws, but I just, if they can stay healthy, it's amazing 1-2 punch.
Well, it got me thinking that one of my biggest frustrations over the years was that it seemed like they would run Carson until they got inside the 20, and then Carson would come out of the game and they put in some other back inside the red zone, which made no sense to me. So if your inside the 20 guy is Carson, that makes a ton of sense to me. And then have Penny be that back for the rest of the field, I could see that working really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Pete
wants. Or maybe if
to.
Penny can be shift to more of a power back style, then it doesn't really matter as long as you have a guy who can really pound it and is can find the end zone. I guess I don't much matter which one of those guys it is.
No, it really doesn't. So it's going to be fun, and I did enjoy that little statement from Penny that gave me a little bit of hope.
Charles at gettingtheflock.com says, hey guys, I'm really hoping you can weigh in on two things real quick. One, it seems to me that Pete and John have been unfairly maligned lately, and with their ability to be successful post-Russell Wilson. My observation is that Pete and John are very good at building young teams where they can spread around their money at different positions and develop young players, but not so great at building a team around a single expensive player, who at one point was the highest paid. This gives me hope for the future rebuild or reload and leaves me scratching my head at the Watson and Rodgers salaries as of late. Is it going to be a problem for these teams like it was for the Seahawks in the long run, or is this only a Pete and John issue? 2, this might hit a little too close to home, but please tell me that the Go Hawks catchphrase predates Wilson, because in light of his let's ride silliness, I'm feeling dirty repeating my once loved Hawks catchphrase, and I don't know what to do. Thankfully, I have you guys to set me straight. Thanks again for all you do. From Charles.
Hey, Charles. I wonder, so Russ isn't saying go Bronx, he's saying let's ride? Is that what he's doing?
Let's ride is the... Did you know that was the Broncos catchphrase?
No,
Have you ever heard Bronco Jared say let's ride at any point in any of your years knowing him?
Yes, it had nothing to do with football and all about chasing ladies at the bar.
So it wasn't to you that he was saying this. I got you.
Oh, no, he was to me. It was when I didn't want to go out to the bar because I'm a hermit. It'd be, come on, man, let's ride. Let's go. So that's the only time. It had nothing to do with Broncos Nation. I'm sure Russ had to scour for that one. Here's the thing. Russ kind of made it the most famous, probably.
Through repetition, yeah.
Yeah. That's ours, and we're taking it back. And he's obviously not going to use it anymore until he goes to the Hall of Fame as a Seahawk. So, yeah, I think I'm feeling just fine using it going forward. It's ours.
Yeah, I know we've said Go Hawks before 2012, but it's been long enough with Russ as our quarterback that you do have to think about it. Like, did we say it that much before he came around? Maybe not as much, but yeah, it's ours. So
exactly.
Don't let that jerk take it away from you.
That's right. You can't take that to Denver too.
And you know what? If it doesn't, if it makes you uncomfortable saying it, instead of saying "Go Hawks" to a Seahawks fan, you just yell "See" and then wait for Hawks to come back at you. I know for sure
right.
I remember doing that at the Kingdome.
Oh yeah, I remember that for as long as the
Oh no, wait. The Kingdome was one side would say "Go" and the other side would say "Seahawks." But then I think when they made the move to Seahawks Stadium, it was the Seahawks on the opposite sides.
Oh,
either way,
I don't know. Yeah.
I do remember in the Kingdome that you would do the one side of the stadium would yell "Go" and the other side would say Seahawks.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. A little bit of Seahawks history.
Perfect.
Final email here from Amon says, you probably have no idea who I am because I'm a broke freeloader, but I just had to mail in to mention something. And Amon, it's not that we don't know who you are because you're a freeloader. It's when you only send us 2 emails and over the course of, 3 or 4 years, it's hard to develop a relationship with you.
Exactly. Yeah, this is more a communication barrier than it is a monetary issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ahmad says, when I saw Christian Kirk get paid $21 million a year, I realized that the Jamal Adams deal might be a much better deal than most people give Schneider credit for. Sure, we give up 2 first-round picks, but I would rather have Jamal Adams over Rashad Penny and LJ Collier, to name a couple first-round picks. As far as paying Jamal so much, the contract market is going up extremely fast, as the salary cap was raised by over $20 million this year. And it appears that this is going to be the trajectory, at least for the foreseeable future. While the $17 million a year might seem like a lot now, several years down the road, Jamal will probably be on a league average contract for an exceptional safety who holds the defensive back sack record. I don't know if you agree, but I know one thing we can agree on, and that is that the Whiners are still going to lose twice this year to the Seahawks, so the season isn't entirely lost. Thanks for all you do, and go Hawks.
Book it. I'm looking forward to those 2 wins for sure. And hopefully 2 more over the Rams, and then we can lose the rest. I'd almost be okay with that. But
yeah. And then we still finish with more wins than the Broncos, who only got their 3 wins over the Niners, Cards, and 49ers.
A bad Broncos year is not out of the question, man. Like, keep rooting for a bad Broncos year next year, man. That does nothing but help us.
I know.
I'm looking forward to it. In regards to the contract thing, and this is something we see all over the place in the league at all different positions and almost every single year, right? You see these contracts, you go, oh, holy crap, that's a crap ton of money for that guy. Oh my goodness, they broke the bank and all that. But if you're doing contracts right, it might seem that way year 1, maybe even year 2, but by year 3 and 4, most people are looking at it and being like, holy smokes, that's a bargain considering how much the cap's gone up and what everybody else is getting these days. And
yeah, go look at the reactions to Tyler Lockett's first contract signing.
Yeah. And pay attention to the reaction of people here in the next couple months here when DK re-ups. And they're going to be like, oh my goodness, they broke the bank and all that. And then in a couple years, they're going to be like, oh, thank goodness they did that.
I have seen some people questioning that. Well, when you see the number of draft picks that Kansas City is getting, that Green Bay is getting for their top receivers, I can see some of the intrigue around all that. But again, are you going to be able to sign a guy like DK Metcalf with all those picks?
Maybe.
Pete's been trying to find a guy like DK for this long. And I know there's so many out there that think that DK is like this diva guy who needs to grow up. And, I just, maybe DK better than I do, but the guy that I see in the press conferences and hear teammates talking about is not the type of guy that he seems to be portrayed when, okay, does he show a little emotion on the field sometimes? Yeah, but it's not the kind of emotion that I think is completely negative.
Think about it in these terms as well. If you were to rank all of the Seahawks players in order of Pete's favorite, the people that are now still on the team, where does DK rank in there?
Yeah, it'd have to be probably top 5, wouldn't it?
I was going to say, is it 1 or 1A? Because the way he talks about DK and his competitiveness, and I mean, over the last couple of years, I mean, he's just, and he wants to go after this and wants to go after that. He loves DK. Like he embodies all the things that Pete loves. And I don't see him walking out the door. I think he's one of the guys he's looking at as the next generation of leaders on this team to take this thing forward. I think DK is a big part of that for him.
They need some emotion on this team. Like, not everybody can be Tyler Lockett and and show no emotion. Yeah. And when I say emotion, it's kind of that more outward, get your fellow teammates fired up. And so with those guys, I think Jamal, I think Quandre, I think DK, those are kind of the guys. And they don't have anybody like that on offense now.
No. I mean, Penny's a soft-spoken guy, right?
Yeah, Carson. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and Dwayne being gone, I felt like he was more of a quiet type leader, but I felt like he showed that. Who else can that be on offense?
Yeah, I don't think it's really. I don't think there's another guy that really fills in those shoes. As up to this point, we'll see how the roster evolves and everything. But DK also too, letting everybody know that he's not really going anywhere. There's a lot of Kansas
City.
And how
is DK any different from some of the stuff we saw from Doug Baldwin?
Okay, this is where I was parlaying. Okay, so you picked up right where I was going. I mean, everybody calls DK a diva, yet when Doug got mad about not getting the ball, he just got to be angry Doug Baldwin.
He was angry Doug Baldwin.
And we loved it.
So yeah, why is this? Yeah,
is it a hair color thing?
I don't know. Maybe the mouth binky thing?
I don't know. But I loved this tweet to some KC fan that was like, doors open to come to KC. And DK tweeted back, well, you better shut it. It gets cold at night.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think DK is tired of, he's been out on Twitter, 1, defending his quarterback, Drew Lock, and 2, responding to all the NFL teams saying that he needs to come to their team.
Right? Good for DK.
And so with Amon, I guess the other thing that we didn't respond to, in a way we did with regard to the Jamal Adams salary cap thing. Yeah, it's going to seem low eventually. But one thing that Jason Harding sent in, we were talking about coaches that won a Super Bowl with the same team but different quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Bill Parcells did it with Phil Simms and Jeff Hostetler.
Okay, yeah.
And then Joe Gibbs did it in Washington with 3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good piece of NFL history there that we missed. Yep.
But Pete would be the first one in the free agency era.
Oh, nice save, Brandon. Good job. We're still right.
I was totally thinking free agency era.
Right. Yeah, me too, for sure.
Jason also emailed in and said, we already know John Schneider will trade down because of course he will. Therefore, I'm looking for a 2011 type season where we cobble together some young guys who push a few vets out with competitive play. We both know that's how Pete likes it. Growing up here in Ontario, the Seahawks weren't on my radar until 1986, but I've lived through the good and the bad between them and stuck around. I still believe and will stick around a little longer. Besides, I've got a closet full of Seahawks hats now after 35 years. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Yep, you're too invested now. You got too much headgear.
All right, thanks for everybody who emailed in. If you want to send in comments or suggestions, or if you have a question, you can email us, gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com. What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
All right, man. My do better this week is for Mile High Huddle. It's a little offshoot of Sports Illustrated, right? And writer Chad Jensen, because he's coming after my quarterback, man. Here's the title of the article. Drew Lock's first statement post-trade: snubs Broncos, patronizes Seahawks fans. Goes on to talk about the first tweet that Drew Lock sent out, which was officially a Seahawk and officially pumped. Thank you for welcoming me to your great city and first-class organization. You've set the standard for winning. I understand where the bar is set. Can't wait to play in the loudest stadium in front of the best fans in the NFL. I respect the history. Excited for the opportunity to write more wearing the number 2. Proud to be a Seahawk. What a dick. How dare he forget to mention Broncos Nation after they stabbed him right between the shoulder blades and traded him right out of town. And then just patronized all of us by saying that he was excited to go somewhere where he potentially would be wanted. This guy, Chad, who wrote this article, obviously really salty that Drew Lock didn't give enough appreciation to him and the whole Denver fan base that couldn't wait to get his ass out of town. Give me a break. Chad Jensen, do better.
Oh, that's funny. Of all the things to be salty over, your departing quarterback in a trade where you're getting a multi-time Pro Bowl quarterback, and you're going to feel salty over your quarterback that, you didn't want anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was just so absurd. And look, they're attacking my quarterback. That's my quarterback, man.
That's right. He's your quarterback now.
Yeah. Got to go to bat.
Well, one guy who I feel like is still my linebacker, Bobby Wagner. I've had to listen to some pretty disgusting Seahawks talk over these last few weeks, especially when listening to some of the national commentary. And I know that maybe some of you listening, you've been avoiding it. And because, you don't want to hear any of that nonsense. And you're counting on this show to help filter out some of the worst of it. But I came across something, Adam, from around the NFL that I can't ignore it and just allow it to slip by me. It was disgusting.
I would like to just see this happen because it would add a little more salt under the wound of the Seahawks. Bobby Wagner to the Rams.
Yeah.
Just go spend the money. Go do it. Add this guy who basically just adds another tipping point figure in a defense that wants to get back to the Super Bowl.
I wonder if that'd just be out of spite. Well, I guess they know how great Bobby Wagner is because I've seen this bandied about here. Steve Weiss kind of hinted at it. And
it feels like a Rams move, doesn't it?
It does, but they also never pay for that position. They don't have a lot of space. So that it would be fun, though.
It would be fun, though? It would be fun. Bobby Wagner going to the Rams would be fun?
Not fun.
It's not fun at all. Unless your idea of fun is the sadistic torture of Seahawks fans. And if you know what? If that's your idea of fun, you are a sick person. You're sick. So to Mark Sessler and Greg Rosenthal for even speaking this into existence, because we found out this week that Bobby Wagner was actually visiting L.A. and the Rams about a potential contract or a potential fit within the team. I cannot let this go. And the fact that you were even thinking about this and thinking that it might be fun, do better.
Yeah. What did we ever do to you guys over there around the NFL? What did the 12s do to you guys? Give me a break. Yeah, this would be a lot of fun. Just like getting like red hot pokers, like poking into your eyeballs. Be about that much fun seeing Bobby in a freaking Rams uniform. Please, God, don't let this happen. I don't think the gods will let it happen because I think the gods are on our side and we're in their favor. I'll talk more about that in my Better at Life. But yeah, I don't know what Sessler was trying to do there. Major do better.
Well, I hope you have some good news for us then in Better at Life. My Better at Life this week, I'm giving my Better at Life to Lego for my Christmas gift to my wife. One of them was they made this Lego Home Alone house. And so over the last couple of weeks, we spent, a couple hours here, a couple hours there, building this Lego Home Alone house set. And it is one of the coolest sets I've ever put together. It has like the Lego Michael Jordan on the train track that goes around in the living room. Like it actually has a little spinny thing that you can rotate. And so you get to see Lego Mike go around and around in front of the fireplace. It has like Buzz's room with the tarantula up on the wall and the shelves that fall down where Kevin's going for the BB gun up on the wall. And then you have the attic that has, it just has so many little details from the actual movie, like all the way down to the thing in the basement, that opens up when he goes down and it's kind of scary. You can press down on the boiler and it opens up and it shines this orange light.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just the amount of detail that went into the Home Alone house for what they did and the amount of fun that it made for putting it together. Lego, better at life than Skip Bayless.
The real question is, who enjoyed it more, you or your daughters?
Oh, the daughters were okay with it, but my wife and I, it was really for us.
Yeah,
I got it for her for a gift, and then it was kind of us that we both enjoyed it together.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
The kids thought it was neat, but I mean,
yeah, they didn't get the context.
Well, they just don't have the history with the movie like we do.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah. No, I get it.
You got the there's a little Lego statue out in front. You know, the car's always running into when they pull up.
Oh,
there's the statue. There's a set of clippers that was in the tree house. Like,
like bolt cutters or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just all these little details that remind you of different moments from the movie.
Sure.
It's wild.
Attention to detail. Look at those dudes at Lego Go.
They know what they're doing.
Speaking of people who know what they're doing, it may not be the Denver Broncos because, I've been talking about this a little bit over the last couple podcasts. I'm like, this whole Broncos are going to the Super Bowl thing is not a slam dunk. They got stiff competition in the, AFC West. Russ isn't a shoo-in to be the best quarterback in that division by any stretch. I don't think that their roster is miles better than ours and blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that you've been hearing, right? Everybody so excited, including, Bronco Jared and all those Denver fans. I think we got our first sign, Brandon, that this might not go according to plan for Broncos Nation. The football gods have spoken today, just today, this afternoon. A whole section of stands went up in flames at Mile High Stadium. It's already burning down. The stadium's already burning down from the Broncos trying to backdoor their way into another Super Bowl by poaching an all-time quarterback from someone else. This is the football gods. They're speaking loud and clear that they do not approve of this unholy union of the Broncos and Russell Wilson. So to the football gods for giving me great joy today, lighting the stadium on freaking fire, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Now we just need the football gods to turn on LA. Like, something has to happen. Like, their deal with the devil and Roger Goodell can only it can only stand for so long before the football gods must fight back.
Absolutely. That whole stadium will go up in flames if Sean McVay's hair gel gets lit on fire. Like, they won't be able to put that out.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.